Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Lori. Wanted to do a video on information that was coming through many different sessions that I've been doing in the last 4 or 5 months. So what I do is I channel star beings or high frequency light beings for clients so they can be introduced to their families of light or their star families, their cosmic families. And when these beautiful beings, these are the Pleiadians, the Sirians, the Octurians, the Lyrans, Cassiopeia, Antares, so many different systems. There's thousands of them. And when they come in, they not only share with the client information about who they are and what they're doing here and tangible kind of tools that they can use to move forward on their path, but they also give them an explanation of kind of how their energetic body works, how their light body works, things like that. And so one of the pieces of information that's come in many times for many different clients is this idea or this knowingness about a light quotient that the human holds. So let me give you a little explanation about that. I've talked about the Earth's light quotient before. So the Earth is also a living, breathing being of light, and she holds a specific light quotient. A light quotient is the amount of light you're holding in your vessel. So the Earth is holding a percentage or a number, which is her light quotient. When she gets to that 100% mark, that's when she has ascended into the next dimension. And she's holding 100% of her light. That's her process. Our process is a little bit different. She's not in the same sort of situation that the human is in. So the human is in a much more dense, physical, squeezed in space. And when we as light beings come down into the physical form, which every single human is an aspect of a light frequency, they are not a physical body, okay? They come into the physical form, the physical vessel. And when they do that, there is only a percentage of their light that can be held inside this physical vessel. The physical vessel is so dense that it is impossible. It would literally combust. The organs would stop. It's too much light. That it can't hold the 100% light that we are as light beings. So the other thing to remember and understand is that we all came from different consciousnesses, frequencies, dimensions. Okay, we didn't all come from the same frequency, the same dimension, the same consciousness. So depending upon what consciousness you came from, what frequency you came from, what dimension you came from, you're going to have volunteered with a specific frequency, speed, dimension, right? We are in a 3rd dimension. Pleiadians are in a 7th to 9th dimension. Sirians are in a 12th to 14th type dimension. Octurians are a little bit lower than that, between 10th and 12th, right? The Lyrans are higher than that. So it depends upon what system of light you came from or what consciousness you came from. So if you came from, let's say, a 9th dimensional frequency, right? I would say, and these are all numbers, so numbers don't really make sense to light beings. So when these beings are speaking to me, they have to kind of reduce it to some sort of system that we can understand. And so this is how they do it, with numbers, but it's not quite exactly it. Okay, but we use numbers in order to describe things. So let's say you're a 9th dimensional light being, frequency, consciousness, that is going to enter into a physical form. The physical form is only going to be able to hold between around 3 and 6% of that light, give or take. Okay? And you will come into your physical form holding just that tiny spark of the light of who you are. Okay. There have been clients that I have channeled for where they have tried to come in holding a little bit higher frequency. so that they could be able to do the work they came here to do faster, quicker, easier. I'm not exactly sure why, but they wanted to hold more frequency. They tried, one client I'm specifically thinking about tried twice and was not able to hold herself in the physical form with the amount of light quotient she was trying to squeeze in. So she tried it twice and she wasn't able to stay, so she passed at some point in the early stages of her life, 1 to 2 years. She wasn't able to stay very long. And so she compromised. And the star seeds that are being born right now, the babies, the individuals that are between 1 and maybe 5 years old, they're holding a much higher quotient of their light. So it's possible they're saying around 9 to 11%. So if we're holding 3 to 6%, many of us, imagine how much light they're holding, right? It's very challenging to be in the physical form when you're holding that much light. And there's a lot of volunteers, a lot of star seeds that were born around the late 70s, early 80s, and early 90s that are holding around 9 to 10% of their light quotient. And these are the humans that are physically super sensitive. Like, the energy is sensitive. I'm not talking about feeling other people's energies and being an empath. Every human's an empath, right? I'm not talking about empaths. I'm talking about literally being so sensitive to vibration, sensitive to noise, sensitive to sounds, sensitive to energy, sensitive to clothes, sensitive to the human experience. And these are also the humans that have gifts that just come up. They just arise. They don't have to do anything. They just start to come, and they come at a very young age. Right? So humans that are born with these natural talents, these natural gifts, these abilities to see, feel, and hear these other entities, other beings, they're holding a higher light quotient. So it's easier for them to access that information. Most of us aren't holding that high of a light quotient, right? So there's pros and cons to holding it. A lot of the reason that they are holding a little bit higher of a light quotient is because they are their intent and being here on the earth plane is laser beam focused, and they have no other reason. It's like they come in, they're going to do it, and they're going to leave, right? This is the first time and the only time coming down into the earth plane. And so they want to be as potent and as powerful as they can, making as much of a oomph as they possibly can. As much of an impact as they possibly can. So their light quotient, they're holding more light inside their body. Now, there is nothing better than or less than, right? Just because somebody may be holding a little bit higher light quotient doesn't mean they're a better person or a larger impact on the world or a better volunteer or a better light worker, right? It's just that now when they're coming down now, because the earth is holding a higher frequency and a higher light quotient, and because humanity has begun to shift into higher states of consciousness, the physical body is also capable of holding a little bit higher frequency. So these star seeds can now come in and their physical form can hold more of the light quotient. So for those of us like myself that are holding between like a 4 and 6%, right? And how do I know this? So I had a client today ask me that. How do I know that? I've been told that these light beings have, and it's not just one system that's told me, like the Palladians. The Syrians have told me this. The Arcturians have told me this. The Galactic Federation of Light have told me this. Lots of different systems have told me the same thing. And if you don't know me or haven't listened to any of my videos, you know that I don't watch other people's videos. I don't read other people's information. I don't listen or read any other information other than what comes through me. And the reason I do that is because it is a clear channel for me. If I find myself reading, watching, looking at, listening to anyone other than myself, then the information that comes in could be tainted. Unbeknownst to myself, it's not something that the human is consciously doing. I'm not consciously trying to pull from someone else. But I've been told not to do anything other than just listen to what comes through. And when this message comes through multiple times, I know that it is an important message. So this light quotient has been coming in over and over and over again. I have no idea if other people are talking about it. But so she wanted to know, how do I know? And they tell me, and they usually use that same range. And then I have a client that came in that was trying to come in with a higher light quotient, and they were giving her that information, right? The breatharians that are on the planet, the humans that are able to live off of their prana, off of the life force, they are holding a higher light quotient inside of them. Now, you can't, at this point in our journey, you can't bring in more light quotient, right? So what's happening on our ascension process is our light quotient is increasing naturally through the ascension process, okay? So we are just like the earth, we are shifting into higher states of consciousness. We are increasing the frequency of light within our physical form. And we are continuing to, and will continue to hold more light in our physical form. That's the process of consciousness evolving and the ascension process. So we started at a 3 to 6% range, most of us. And I don't know what number we're in right now. I actually haven't asked. Probably not too high, much higher than a 10 or 11%. Believe it or not, but that information hasn't come through in terms of, well, where are we now? But if I ask the question, where are we now? It feels like a 10, 11% is where we are, what the physical form can actually hold. And of course, taking care of the physical body and doing all the things that the physical body needs in order to assimilate and acclimate and hold the frequencies is always important. But it doesn't matter, the light's still going to come in, right? Your body is still going to try to assimilate and acclimate to it. So that's what's happening. So we originally come in as a specific light being with a specific light quotient, 3 to 6%, or if you came in most recently in the last 30 years, a little bit higher. And think about those beings that came in, especially the starseeds that have come in the last 30, 35 years. And the ones that are just now popping in, they have potent gifts without having to learn anything. They just got them, right? They just know. They're just an open channel. They're just seeing, feeling, receiving. Why? Because they're light quotient. They have more light quotient inside their bodies. They're holding more light. And if you hold more light, as we're all starting to recognize, because we're finally going through it, we're finally feeling it. If you hold more light, right, you're able to connect, access, feel, receive more light, more frequency, more messages, more guidance. So the more light that we hold, the more we are moving into a higher state of consciousness, the more we are able to access higher frequencies and higher energies. And that's what we are doing with this ascension process. We are continuing daily to hold more light in our physical form. And when you hold more light, it also spins a little bit faster. I did a video a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago, about how the light that's coming in now is much faster. It's speeding up, so it's spinning much faster. So that spinning is also happening inside of us. We just can't feel it most of the time. And it's flushing things out quicker. So that's light quotient. I think it's pretty cool. It helps us understand a little bit more on an energetic level what's going on, what's happening to us. I'll come back and let you know if I get any information in terms of like where the human is right now. It feels like more of like a 9th to an 11% at the max. So you have to understand, if you're coming from a collective that's holding a 30-dimensional frequency, and you, as this 30-dimensional frequency, volunteer to be coming down into a human form, okay, you're only holding about 3 to 4% of that frequency, of that light. That's all you're able to hold in your body. So you have to realize, when you start waking up and remembering that you are a light being, and that you are a light being from a very high dimensional frequency, there is a lot of waking up to do. There is a lot of reconnection. There is a lot of powerful high frequencies that you're going to start to connect to, that you're going to start to remember. Your purpose work is connected to that. So then you have to start to think about how your purpose work has to unfold in the same way that your light is increasing and unfolding, expanding, getting higher and higher in its light quotient, right? It's all related to where you came from, what frequency you held when you came down into your physical form. Because when you came down and wrote out the purpose, and your purpose is directly correlated with the frequency that you held. So if you held a very high frequency before you came down, and now you came down and you're opening up and exploring who you are and what you're here to do with only 4% of it, give yourself some credit. You're trying to excavate and figure out 4% of who you are, of what you're doing here on the earth plane, and starting to try to tap into that other 96% of who you are, which is what I like to call your star families, or your galactic families, your cosmic families, your guides, the guides that are around you. They hold that frequency that you came down from. And so when they come in and try to introduce themselves, when they try to re-engage with you, reconnect, co-create, provide messages and guidance, imagine the drastic difference in frequency between them and you. They're just as real as you are. You're no less or more real than they are. They're just as real as you and I. They just hold a higher frequency. And there is a drastic barrier trying to come together, be penetrated, so that we, as this 3% of the light of who we are, can begin to engage with the other 97% of light that we are. So when you start thinking about what's going on out here in our worlds as energy, it's very easy, it's very simple, it's not as complex as people make it seem. You don't have to use all these crazy terms. It's just energy. It's very simple. When I start working and channeling these beings, they make it so simple for us to understand. Humans complicate it. Humans like to use really complicated words. And words are great. Complicated words are fabulous. Really intricate, detailed words are great. But they want to get their message across to as many people as possible, with as less confusion as possible. And so when they just talk about it as energy, it kind of just makes very simple sense. So that's what we're doing. You are holding a tiny, tiny piece, tiny percentage of who you are. And when you start to talk about or think about reconnecting, reuniting, remembering, talking to, hearing your guides or your star families, remember, they are holding a much higher frequency, much higher. And you have to penetrate veils. You have to penetrate dimensions. You have to penetrate frequencies. And that's not easy. It takes practice. It takes patience. It takes trust. It takes listening. I think I'm going to do another video on channeling. That just came through. Techniques in which we can start to learn to channel more. Because we're all born and designed to channel. Channel is just bringing in information that's held in a higher frequency. That's all. All channeling is bringing in higher frequencies of energy, which is information, into your system. Simple. Okay, I love you guys all so much. Thank you for listening. I hope this was interesting. I thought it was interesting. Let me know your thoughts below. Pass this on to anybody that you think may find it intriguing, interesting. Would love to hear about it. And I will be back later for another video. Love you all so much. Be gentle with yourselves. Take care.